Hi everyone, this is Steph Giordano with Human Services Research Institute, or HSRI. In these next couple of training modules, we're going to be taking a fairly in-depth look at the pre-survey and background information for the Adult In-Person Survey for the 2017-18 NCI data collection cycle. So this is really modules that are for those of you tasked with collecting all of this information to give you a better understanding of the intent of some of these questions. I'll also give some definitions and explanations and point out differences in the survey for this year as compared to last. So really briefly, for those of you who may be new to collecting information for the IPS, or Adult In-Person Survey, I just want to talk really briefly about what these two sections that we're going to focus on today look like. So we have the pre-survey form, and this is information that's always collected prior to the meeting taking place. It's information that helps the surveyor set up and conduct the survey meeting. So it includes things like familiar names and terms that the surveyor can use to make the survey feel more conversational and also help the person better understand the questions that are being asked. It also asks about additional people who the surveyor can contact to help set up the meeting, find perhaps a space that would be available, and discuss any kind of accommodations that the individual who's being surveyed may need. You'll see as you go through the pre-survey there will be some bell symbols. That just indicates that there's a question in the actual survey that with questions that get asked to the individual that correspond to these questions in the pre-survey. Again, those are those familiar names and terms that will be used. None of the information in the pre-survey form is analyzed by the state or by HSRI. So this is, again, information that's just used for the surveyor, but is really, really essential to helping them set up and conduct the survey itself. Okay, and then we have the background information. So this is the section of the survey that we'll spend the bulk of these few videos looking at. The questions and the background information are largely information that are obtained from records. The questions focus on the individual's demographics, some questions around health in terms of types of diagnoses a person may have, as well as whether they've had preventative or regular healthcare screenings. We also ask some questions around employment here. Most of this information will be collected prior to the meeting taking place. And the bulk of this information will be collected from the person's records or other state systems. Okay, and so now we're right into the survey. This is the pre-survey form. I do want to make a couple of notes here before we really get started. One, always be sure that you're looking at the correct version of the survey. So at the top of the page, you'll see that this says 2017-18 Adult In-Person Survey. Some of you may be entering information directly into our Odessa system, which is the online data entry system. You'll have all of the same information, all of the questions and response options available that we'll be walking through here in the paper version of the survey. But do also be sure that in that system, you are entering information in 2017-18. Okay, on this first page here, we just have some basic information about what the tool is for, what the section of the survey is used for. Some of you might have some additional information from your state contact, just in terms of who to talk to if you have any questions, if anything comes up, and any kind of administrative procedures. We do also ask that you enter your name here, just in case any questions come up during the course of looking at this information, so we know who to contact in case we need to get any clarity on any of this information. Okay, some obvious information here, right? The name of the person to be surveyed, as well as their phone number and their street address. This is, of course, just so that we know who is being surveyed and how to contact that person. We also want to know the name of the legal guardian, especially if the surveyor is going to need to contact a legal guardian in order to gain consent to conduct the survey. PS1 is contact information for any person who the surveyor may want to call to help set up the face-to-face meeting with the individual. So this may be the person themselves, it could be a parent or guardian, it could also be staff at the place where the person spends their day. So anybody who can really help kind of find a space to meet, or who should be aware that you are going to be meeting a person on a specific day and time. We want to know if there should be anybody present at the time of the meeting for any reason, but do also want to know what that reason is. If there are any accommodations that are necessary for this person, so things like whether the person needs a translator or interpreter, also things like accessibility, transportation, if there are any allergies that the surveyor should be aware of. So really anything, again, that would be helpful to know in order to set up the actual meeting itself. Question PS2 is the name of the case manager. Now again, this is not information that is collected or analyzed. This is information that's really used by the surveyor when they're asking questions about case management. Just to use the name of the case manager or service coordinator, again, helps ground the individual being surveyed in understanding who the question is referring to or the types of services that are being talked about. We ask about who can provide information on the individual's employment. This may be somebody who you contact when you complete the background information grid, which we'll see a little bit later. But this is also information that's really important later on if we have additional questions about any of that employment information, to know who to call to verify any information that's necessary. Question PS4 asks about proxy respondents. So there is a section of the survey that can be completed with the support of a proxy respondent if necessary. So having the names and contact information for anyone who might be able to help complete that section is helpful for the surveyor to be able to contact before the meeting takes place to make sure that that person can be available. Living arrangements, this again is for the surveyor just to have a better understanding of the environment that they may be walking into if they're conducting the survey in the person's home. Here again are familiar names and terms that the surveyor may want to use during the course of the survey, so the names of support staff, place of the person's employment, and their day program or sheltered workshop space. PS9 is the name of self-advocacy organizations that may be in the area. We ask whether the person has participated in any self-advocacy groups, and we do know that having the names of some of these organizations really does help the individual better understand what we mean by the question, rather than using self-advocacy organization. The next couple of questions are only applicable to those individuals who are self-directing their supports. So PS10 asks whether the person is self-directing, and if so, we want to know if there is a financial management place that can be referenced when asking about information that may be gathered from that place, as well as whether the person hires and manages their staff. So that takes us to the end of the pre-survey form. The next couple of training modules here are going to go really in depth with the background information section. So thanks for tuning into this first module.